a different breed. Place. Who doesn't want to win in Jersey?
And the Scarlet Knights did not have a national champion before tonight, and it's RU ×2.
What's up, everybody? John Corser here, Breakdown from the Barn, episode 17. With me is my main man, greatest mind in wrestling, Eric Winnuck. We got the national championships coming up. We're fired up. That kicks off. And to start it off Wednesday, we got a big super match coming up. I'm excited to be back and ready to go. How you making out, Eric?
I'm making out good. Finally got the youth wrestling season, which feels like it went on for 2 years, finally come to an end.
Nice.
A couple of our wrestlers were down in Trenton. Some guys placed.
Alex down there. Good stuff.
Yep. And I'll give a shout out to our boy Dougie Rydell. His boy did quite well this weekend, so I was proud of him. Walk away with the big win.
Landon,
the apple
Rick,
trees, as they say.
That's good stuff, and Landon, Dougie Rydell had some talent back in the day, so good to see those genes coming through. And coach,
Absolutely.
I see him coached by Hot Rod down there, Rod Van Ness. So
Yeah.
the Rutgers combination getting the youth state championship. So good stuff.
Good stuff. Yep.
Yeah.
So
Let's talk about it. Rutgers coming on hot. They got an All-American already, from the club team. Ben Liss took third in the nation, man, 184. Listen, man, if I'm good, Al, I think getting some depth in there couldn't hurt them. He took fifth in the state 2 years ago. Get him in the room with my Mart and John Paz. Hey, that's what I'd be doing.
Yeah, I don't think it's you talk about depth and obviously just seeing kind of the bang up injuries we've dealt with this year. And obviously Paz was, earlier in the season, he's nursing a few things. So it's good to have bodies in there. But more importantly, like you said, to get a guy who's got some skill, let's see what he's got. I mean, get him on the mat. I've seen crazier stories happen. I don't disagree with you. Get him in there, let him roll with these guys, see what we got.
Yeah, but cool. Shout out to the club team. Cool to see Rutgers, doing well in all levels. They got a girls club team coming out. The club team brought a bunch of guys down there, so that's pretty cool. So glad to see the big boys doing well. And then, we got the club teams going, all about wrestling. Just get more of that going. So first, I want to get your take on the super match we got. Should have happened at the trials. Jaden Cox versus Kyle Snyder, best 2 out of 3 Wednesday night. My wife's not happy about that because I'm zoned in for the 3 days for the national championships. Now I got Wednesday night on there as well. What are your thoughts about this matchup?
These guys, for those who've been following the sport as much as junkies like us, know that Kyle Snyder and obviously Jaden Cox go back literally to youth wrestling through high school, all the way going to the collegiate ranks. These guys have been, in the collegiate ranks, Snyder was a little bit higher, but these guys have a long history together. There's my take, John. It's really short and sweet. I'm probably going to take Kyle Snyder only because I think Kyle Snyder has been the more consistent wrestler. And obviously coming out the battles he's had with the big Russian over the last, couple of years. Jaden Cox, though, when he's on, if he's on and his mindset is set, I don't think there's a better wrestler in the world. We've talked about this. I mean, Jaden is probably, if you ask me who my heart loves the most next to Jordan Burroughs, it's Jaden Cox. I think this guy, he could be our number one wrestler in the world. I really think long term, but you don't know where he's at all the time. Obviously missing the weight earlier in the trials, that never happened. We've talked about he's got other interests, and sometimes his head's just don't know where it's at. So I'm going to take Kyle Snyder because of the consistency, and I think Kyle Snyder is always Kyle Snyder. But I think if Jaden Cox comes in and he's 100%, and when I mean 100%, I don't mean physically, I mean mentally as well. Nobody in the world can beat him. So that's my take.
Yeah, interesting matchup. I mean, I think Jaden wrestles to his competition. I feel like he does, go up and down, but wrestles to his competition. Kyle, you said it. He's very consistent. I'm excited for it. I think it's going to be a battle. I don't know. I think it's hard for me to pick one of these two. Maybe I'll go Jaden. I just think he wrestles to his competition, but it's like 51-49. I mean, it's very tough. You can go either way with these guys. I don't like that they're doing a 2 out of 3. I wish they just did one match because, wrestling needs to learn a little bit, right? They need to learn because you have that one match And then something's going to happen. Someone's going to win. Maybe there's a controversial call. What does that do? Now that sets up, we need to have a rematch. You know, you do it all in one night. I think it loses a little luster. I think you have the one match and then hey, now we're going to have the rematch. I wish they did it that way, but I'm excited for them nonetheless. Great card. We know Miles Martin's going against Mark Hall. That's an exciting one. You got some great matches, James Green and Zane. So I'm excited for it. Should be a good event. I wish it was another day though. I think, I'm pulling out all the favors to get the 4 days now for wrestling instead of 3 days, but I'm excited for it nonetheless.
Yeah, same with me. I'll have Alex at practice tomorrow doing his Yale Street thing. So I'll probably be in the parking lot at 6:30 getting the preliminaries done, rush out there to catch the main event. So it's always tough in the middle of the week. And the last thing I'll say to your point of doing the best 2 out of 3, I think you're spot on, because when you talk about big MMA fights or big, championship heavyweight boxing fights, okay, it's always that one fight. You don't have, let's come back and do it again in 20 minutes. Maybe it's because just the way the periods are, the match goes fairly quickly. I mean, it's not going to go any longer than 8 minutes, 9 minutes, even if you've got a nice tight match. So maybe from that aspect, you want to get the most for your money. But I agree with you. It's to me, one match, call it a day. Let's do it. Be done with it.
All right. Well, let's get into these national championships. We got coming up 125. We'll start at the bottom. We got Mickey Six-Pack back from Michigan. He's looking good. He's looking fire. And then you got Vito Arujau. He's the number 2 seed. Pat Glory, the 3 seed. Arujau took it to Glory in the EIWA finals. Arujau has a couple wins over Nick Suriano. This is an exciting weight class with those 3. Who you picking, Eric?
Suriano. I don't even think it's not even, I'm not going to say it's a no-brainer. There's 3 in this card that I think are no-brainers, including 49 in heavyweight. I won't say it's a no-brainer. I just think right now Suriano, the way he's wrestling, he looks like a man among boys. He really does. I wish he'd lose the hair. I mean, it looks a little bit goofy there. With that said, though, I just think he literally looks like a man. It's almost as if he's a senior level circuit guy who's just moonlighting, just for a show. I like Vito a lot. I think Vito's better on a freestyle mat. I think from a scholastic standpoint, I think Nicky controls the center better. I think his defensive standpoint is going to overtake Vito in a match. And I will also say caution the Vito Glory match. Obviously that got away from Glory. That caught me a little bit by surprise. Even the way Shawver wrestled Glory early this season, you saw Shawver stay tight, but you saw Glory's firepower, what he can do in a match. So I would caution, let's not start crowning Vito as the number 2 yet. I still think Pat Glory is one hell of a wrestler, arrogant, but a hell of a wrestler. Let's see what happens in a rematch if it happens. But I mean, I don't know exactly how it's shaking out in terms of the bracket, so I don't want to speak out of ignorance. But to me, I think this is Suriano's to win. The only other dark horses I'm going to throw out there is I like the way Cardinel's wrestling. Obviously, we're a little bit biased because we know the family, but I like the way he is, his record. I like how he's wrestling. He showed well last year. I think Hildebrand, don't count him out as All-American. He had a bad Big Ten tournament, but I think that the talent level's there. This is a returning kind of 4th place All-American. I think Penn State always shows up for the tournament. And the last thing I'll say is, Dylan Shawver, I think, we talked about maybe 4 or 5 All-Americans this year on the high end. I thought that was a little bit high. Obviously, we're not going to spend a lot of time what happened with Rutgers this year. We obviously know we really only have one, to me, sure thing. Obviously, Paz is on top of his game right now. But I like Shawver. He's got a puncher's chance to get on the podium. He's wrestled really well this year. He's been really tight with the top competition. Even Nicky Suriano, he went after him. So I like Shawver as a dark horse to get on that podium. I don't think it's definitely not a short thing, but this is Suriano's to lose.
Yeah, so I want to pick Vito here, but I think just because how he wrestled last 2 weekends ago at EIWA really took you to Glory and has those wins over Suriano. But I think Suriano is just a man on a mission, man. I think he's gonna, go for broke, pull out all the stops. He's just hungry. I think he's mentally there, just mentally focused and dialed in. So I do think it's his to lose. And I agree with you. I mean, you look at Dylan Shawver, he's a 23 seed. He's in a nice spot,
The dangerous 23 seed. I wouldn't want him.
D'Agostino first round, and then he'll get Trevor Mastriano Johnny second round. So, those are two winnable matches for him. He took out the 8th seed Pat McKee twice. So he could beat these top guys, and he's in a good spot, and that puts him in the quarters. And on the backside, I like him as well. I think a lot of tough guys in there at 25. There's a lot of depth. It's wild. You got, guys that are seeded very low. Camacho's a 14 seed. You got guys seeded very low that are very good. So there's going to be a lot of battles there at 25, but I do like his chance.
Camacho, Lamont, Tesk, you got a lot of good guys. We forget about Sam Latona too. I mean, there's a lot of guys who can come up big in the tournament, but none of these guys, you said it earlier, on those kind of top 4 or 5 guys, I think Shawver can beat all these guys. Doesn't mean he's going to, but he's a very aggressive wrestler. I think he was improving as the year went on. So listen, I'm not going to put him on the podium, but I certainly like his chances to at least have a running shot of it. So jumping to 33, John, and me, I was always a big believer in RBY. I picked him last year. I loved the way he was wrestling last year. I'm actually not going to pick him this year. I think this is Dayton Fix's year. I think he's due. I like the way he's wrestling. And I'm going to really kind of key in on the match he had earlier on the year with DeSanto. And I thought his offensive game plan, DeSanto, was spot on. The fact that he got his first offensive takedown on DeSanto early on. I like the way he was able to – he's starting to now take his freestyle acumen and bring it to the folk style mat, because DeSanto's a very aggressive wrestler. He pushes the pace. Borderline, it's almost like a back end stall, because he's not really quite looking for the shot as much as to push you forward. But I like the way in that match Fix was circling him back in at the edge of the mat and taking advantage of that. He got a late takedown in the third on that style. So I really like the way Dayton Fix is wrestling. And RBY has been a little bit more defensive this year. I think last year and the year before, I think he was a little funkier. I think he was a little bit more, I don't know if it's the pressure of having to win again or just kind of becoming a more mature wrestler. But to me, I think this is Fix's year. I got a hunch.
Yeah. So last year, I picked Fix, you picked RBY. We're going to flip that this year. I'm going to go RBY. I think he's going to win it. I think this is an overtime match in the finals. I mean, you need to pencil in a final. This is one of the ones that I would pencil in, RBY. And DeSanto is a little interesting in the semis. DeSanto is the 5th seed. But I think that's one you're penciling for the finals. I think you'll pencil it in for going to overtime. I think RBY gets it done. Not real confident in that pick, but I'll go with it. We talked about Shawver. I also like Joey Oliveira's shots. He has a puncher's chance to pull up some W's. He's a 22 seed. He gets the 11th seed. Devin Turner from Oregon State first round, and then the 6th seed Dylan Ragusin in the quarters. Ragusin's tough, but that's not. We're in the pre-quarters actually, so not too really. He's away from RBY. He's away from Fix. He's away from DeSanto. So I think I like his spot. I think we'll see what he can do. Again, just like Shawver, there's going to have to be some gritty wins in there. He'll have to push through it, but I think he does have a puncher's chance to get in that mix to get on the podium. I'm excited to watch him.
Yeah, I don't love the Ragusin matchup. He wrestled really well at Big Tens. I think he's actually, I won't say he's necessarily hot, but I think he's wrestling really, really well. But Joey Oliveira, just coming in as a freshman, has been a really bright spot for this lineup. Obviously losing Sammy Alvarez, not being able to keep that weight. He was one of those guys we had as a dark horse to be an All-American. And I think when Sammy's on, he's one of the more exciting wrestlers kind of in the sport. But Oliveira, he's just consistent. He's aggressive, a little too aggressive. Sometimes he gets caught in some positions. I think, at the Big Tens, he got caught early on, gave up that big, fell behind, which kind of sucked, having him to come back. But yeah, I agree with you. I like Shawver, just the way it shakes out and the way that I think Shawver has an easier path. He's not necessarily the better wrestler per se, but I like his chances a little bit higher. But I agree with you. Oliveira, he's got a puncher's chance. I like him a year or two down the line. I think this is a future All-American for us right now. And the other guy I'm going to mention is, I mentioned him earlier, I think I was speaking over you, Colicchio from UPenn. He's going to be a dark horse. He's not going to win it, but 21-2 EIWA champ. I like how he's wrestling as well. I wouldn't be surprised to see him getting that top 8.
Yeah, well, let me tell you, Colicchio, the 9th seed, there was a Baylor's bold prediction when they rolled into Penn. Baylor has Colicchio beating RBY. That's a quarterfinal. We could see some fireworks Friday morning where, the bowl
it's gonna be a nice match.
True. And, we're going to have to see what happens there, but, we'll see. Yeah, I do like his chances. I think he might definitely outdo his seed, get on that podium and maybe get in the top 6. And maybe he pulls off the big upset on Friday morning. So now let's go 141. 141 is what we need to talk about. The big 3 here, 1, 2, 3 seed, Nick Lee, Jaden Ironman, and then Seabass. Give me your thoughts.
God, my heart wants to pick Rivera. Early in the season, you and I talked about how dominant he looked. And obviously he wasn't going to the level of competition, so it was hard to really gauge how dominant he really was. When we mean by dominant, we're talking about the top 3 here. Was he dominant to the fact that he's better than he was last year? I think he looks a little bit bigger in this weight. I think he's stronger. I think he's finally grown in a little bit more. 141. You and I talked about this. Why I didn't pick Seabass last year is I didn't think he was quite built enough to go against, at that time, Ironman. I don't love Ironman this year. I picked him last year. And obviously, I was proven wrong with Nick Lee. Until I'm proven otherwise, Nick Lee is still the top guy here. I would love to see Rivera knock him off. But again, if I'm going with my heart, I'm going with Sebastian. If I had to put money on the table, I got to go with Nick Lee. The other dark horse is just Chad Red. This guy kind of floundered a little bit in the Big Ten championship. But this is the kind of guy that'll come in on a losing streak and just go on a run on the tournament. So I think if you've written Chad Red off this year, you're going to be in for a little shock, because I think he's going to make it happen in the Big Tens. In the NCAAs, he always does. And the other guy I like is Grant Willits. He has a fall earlier in the season over Real Woods. I think he's another guy in the background that can make, some serious noise here. So I like Red and Willits in the back end to maybe make a run, finish high in the podium. But yeah, to me, I want to go with Seabass. I don't like the fact that he had that injury. I know that Scott Goodell says he's 100%, but Nick Lee is 100%. Nick Lee hasn't really been touched this year. So if Sebastian's 100%, I want to pick him. If I got to put my money on the table, I'm going with Nick Lee. Don't get mad at me, Rutgers Nation.
Listen, man, I'm gonna go with Seabass, and I'll tell you why. I think he is better than he was last year. And the knee injury does scare me a little bit. The knee injury scares me. I think I think he might be 100%, but what scares me is you just get out of that routine and that training and has to take it off a little bit. But I just think he's wrestling much better than he wrestled last year. And I would say Nick Lee is wrestling as he wrestled last year. Not to say he's good. No. And that match was, razor thin. Both matches were razor thin. One in overtime, one, by a takedown. And I think when you're that close, I think getting that little bit of extra strength is going to do you good. I would say Ironman is a step back from last year.
I agree.
So I
don't think he's 100% healthy
finals. I think he's injured. I think he's a little old, right? That's what happens. And you're seeing that happening with these later year guys where, your body just, after you can't take it anymore. So I'm going Seabass or bust. I think it's maybe there's a little heart there, but I think there's some brain there as well. I think it is because he's a notch above where he is last year. And from what I saw of Nick Lee is at where he is last year. Chad Red, he gets him in the second round. I don't like that matchup, but I don't. I think Seabass gets it. I don't, that's a tough draw to get in the second round, but
Seabass is going to take Red.
It is what it is. We'll see what happens. We'll hopefully lightning strikes for Seabass. I'd love to get another national champ in there. I'm excited to watch it. So
I agree with you though. Real quick, that Chad Red matchup it's a little scary. But like I just said, I think Seabass is on a mission. I don't see him losing to Red, and I see Red coming back and doing some damage in the back end. I really do. I got to give a shout out to my boy TJ Composto. I know his family will hate me for the next 6 months if I don't throw a shout out to him. He's obviously been solid all year, but there's another guy from the EIWAs that CJ's had some trouble with, and that's Matt Kashmir. He's a tough wrestler. And I'm not saying either one of these guys are going to finish in the podium, but just some names to look out for. And obviously Parker Filius can, he always pulls off a win here and there. But to me, this is basically the Nick Lee Rivera show. It's going to be one of these guys. I agree with you. I think the Iowa wrestler, I don't know if it's age or just being banged up, but I just don't see it happening. And let's talk about Micic as well, because it's funny. Early in the year, we talked about this maybe being one of the greatest brackets of all time, just because of the firepower. And we're starting to see the board shuffle a little bit more. We're starting to see a little bit of the age seep in. Maybe Micic was a little bit too aggressive going up to 41. He's a little bit of a tweener here because he's been historically 33. I don't see any big comebacks from him. He didn't look great in the Big Tens, and I don't think he's going to turn it on. Like where Red, I think can turn it on. I don't think Micic's turning on. So I'm going to take Nick Lee 51-49. My heart's with Seabass. I want to be proven wrong. Let's do it.
All right, so let's go 149. I honestly think this is Yanni next topic. I think there's a lot of other good wrestlers in there. I think he's one of the pencil-in winners, one of the few pencil-in winners. Some Austin Gomez, exciting. He's going to be exciting. Tariq Wilson, never count him out, but I think he was really big for 41, not as big for 49, but he can make the finals there. Sammy Sasso always has close matches. I think there's a lot of guys under him that this could be shuffle the deck how they finish, right? I mean, you're going to see like last year, Yaya Thomas places third, right? I think you're going to see something like that. Hopefully it's our boy MDB that gets in there. I think he could beat anybody in here, not named Yanni. But I think, he's at the 12th seed. I'd like to see him go on a run. Good spot for him. He got, Marcus Robinson first round, the 21st seed, and then Kyle Parko, he gets the 5th seed, right? So Arizona State, tough guy. A lot of tough guys in this weight. No one besides Yanni that I'm like, oh my God, this guy's unbeatable. So I think Mike Van Bro, we talked about it all year. He could go on a tear and just place very high, or he could really go 1-2 at this tournament just with the level of competition. So hopefully he's been solid this year. He's been wrestling well. So hopefully this is his year, gets on that podium. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's funny. This is the year a guy like Josh Heil or John Milner is just going to out of nowhere go off on a run and kind of make a run for the podium. I like Van Brill in this tournament. I think the last couple of years, it's been disappointing at the NCAAs. I mean, to just be straight up. Last year, I think you and I were really excited about how he finished in the Big Tens. The problem with Van Brill, which is why it's not necessarily disappointment. He wrestles tight matches. He's got a very distinct style. I think he's opened up his offense a little bit. Obviously, Mighty Merkel, that's his kind of go-to move. He likes doing his throw-bys. He wants to work upper body. You really wanted to see him develop that good sweep single or a good leg attack to really round out his game. So with Van Brill, it's really going to be focus. If he can go in there, if he can be focused, if he can wrestle a match. I hate to sound corny, but, one period, one match, one round, that's what he has to do. Van Brill literally has to take this tournament like what it is. This is basically his last collegiate tournament. It's his last shot. And I think he really needs to be focused. I think he needs to stay on his game, and his mat acumen has to be there, John. I talked about this early in the year. We can't have him riding a guy out with 48 seconds and go for the Merkel out of bounds and lose him and give up the riding time. Get that timing in there. Don't give up the late takedown. Okay. Don't go for a bad throw late in a period where it's a 1-2 point match and then you're giving away. So that's my point. If Van Bro can wrestle smart, consistent, and he really stays focused, I think he can absolutely finish on the podium. I think outside of Yanni, you said your best. There's nobody really that totally scares me. Yanni's going to run away with this. He's the to me, it's obviously the heavyweight. It's Yanni then Suriano. Suriano's not a sure thing, but Yanni definitely is. That's it.
All right, let's go 57. 57, I think this is a David Carr, Ryan Deacon final. Who knows? I mean, unless Deacon does something like happens last year, I do think that's a good bet that they're in the final. You got tough guys, Corey Teamer in there. There's some tough guys. We'll see what happens. I think this is a Deacon Carr. I'm going Carr. What's your pick there?
I'm going Deacon this time. I picked him last year, so I think I gotta ride my horse out. I think he learned from last year. David Carr, can you make lightning strike twice? Let's see. He's got good wins over Peyton Robb, sudden victory over Cleve Young. Coleman's always a tough out from Purdue, so he's got some good wins in his resume. Deacon obviously wrestling in the conference he wrestles in. You laugh, John. There's part of me that wants to go with Teamer. I swear. I want to go with the Hail Mary upset. Ja'Cory Teamer, he is a dangerous wrestler. Do not write this kid off. Okay. He can pull it off. Do we believe in Ed Scott? Is that a guy, he's got a nice win over O'Connor earlier in the year, and we forget about O'Connor. Okay?
First time qualifier,
Yeah.
Yeah, he was 149 last year, didn't qualify. Yeah. Tough weight class to get out of in the ACC, and he beat O'Connor. So O'Connor, national champ, the 11th seed. So some fun matches, I think, in this weight. I do think it's these two guys. Maybe Ja'Cory Teamer pulls something out and makes.
But I'm going Deacon.
I wouldn't totally look past them, but it's going to be an exciting weight class. Another one, 165. This is a very exciting weight class here. I mean, you got a lot of guys here. National champ, returning national champ is the 5th seed. Top seed Evan Wick looked very unbeatable this year, 17-0. Keegan O'Toole has been on a tear as a 2nd seed. Some interesting 7th seed is Carson Karchla. Dean Hamidi, I mean, don't sleep on him in the 4th seed. That's going to be an exciting matchup, him versus Evan Wick. They're both long, lanky. Going to be an exciting matchup. So some good matchups there. Is it the year that Bull gets it done from the 3rd seed? Who are you picking here? This is a tough one.
No, well, I'm not going with the Bull. It just past behavior is the best predictor of future behavior. It's what he does. He reminds me a lot, different mentality, different personality, obviously. And Marinelli's just a great guy, great wrestler, good, strong wrestler. I just don't think he's a national champion wrestler. It's like Austin DeSanto. He's a grinder. He's physical, but he doesn't quite do what he needs to do to win a national title. Listen, when we had Pagano on earlier this year, I talked about Evan Wick. I liked Wick from day one. I thought that was a huge pickup for them, bringing Evan Wick out. He's winning this thing, man. I went with him early in the year, back in January. Nothing has happened since to make me shy away from that. 2 big wins over Griffith. The only thing with that is he's got 2 wins. It is really hard to beat somebody 3 times in a given season. That's the only thing that gives me caution. It's the one thing back in the day when we had to see Ashmont wrestle, the kid from Ohio State a 3rd time. I hate having to wrestle a guy who's a tight matchup 3 times. But I started with Evan Wick. I'm going to end with Evan Wick. It's between those 2 guys. I don't think there's anybody else here. Like I said, I just don't think Marinelli's going to do it. But I'm going with Evan Wick.
Yeah, for me, it pains me. I don't want to pick Evan Wick because this is such a dynamic weight class. There's so many good guys.
Yeah.
I think if you told me Wick or the field, maybe I go to the field. But I think Wick is going to win this. I think he's showing he's a notch above everybody else. He's been there. He's showing that he's not aging. He's the best version of Evan Wick that we've seen.
Yeah.
So I see him winning it. I think the challenge with Alex Marinelli in a national tournament like this is Marinelli's a tough guy and he wins these gritty 1-point matches. Yep. And to do this, win 4 of those in a row, tough matches is hard to do. And you look at this guy's almost cursed because, remember when he was a 1st seed, it's like he got JoJo Smith, the returning All-American 1st round. Yep. And then he got someone else really tough 2nd round. And then he got in the quarters, he got Lewis who wins it, right? I mean, he just gets his worst seed. Even I look at this first matchup, he gets Evan Burzak from Drexel. I mean, that's a tough first matchup for a 3rd seed, right? Evan Burzak he really had the win over Wenzel last year in the 1st round. That was a call that got overturned at the end. I think there was a weird call there. I thought Burzak won that match. And Wenzel went on and made the final. So that's a tough first matchup for him. I think, he gets some bad luck in there, but I just think it's hard with his style to really
I agree.
win those matches in a row. We'll see what happens though. A lot of good guys. I see Dean Hamidi. I'm saying Dean Hamidi takes third. I think he goes in the back end. He loses in the semis. He might even lose in the quarters to Shane Griffin, but I think he ends up taking third at this weight. He's a stud, man. He is good. Maybe not, this isn't his year to win it, but this guy is a very good wrestler. High bonus rate, very exciting, scores a lot of point. Keep an eye on Dean Hamidi.
I'll buy that. So,
all right, so now let's go 174. This weight you got Carter, you got Mekhi Lewis, Logan Massa, Hayden Hidley, 4 seed. That's that's a tough 4 seed. He'll have Carter in the semis. Big weight class here. Mikey Labriola is the 9th seed. That's far down. If you're in one of those pools where you got to pick 1 to 10 seeds, go with Labriola there. That's a good pick. So I'm going, I think I'm going Mekhi. He was, I was on ESPN right behind his dad when he won his national title.
I
remember that. So I'm going with him. I think he wins it. I just think he turns it on. He has that dynamic firepower to beat everybody. I like his semi a little better. I think he gets by Logan Massa, and I think
I agree. Yeah.
I think that's going to be a tough out to get by. Hidley has some stops, and he could win that. So I'm gonna go Mekhi gets it done. I think Carter's a phenomenal wrestler. He'll win it 4 times, it's some combination. But we'll see what happens. What are your thoughts there?
No, it's funny because I was going to pick Lewis as well. I like Mekhi in this one. I think he's going to be a gamer. I think he's looked great this year. He's obviously got the loss to Hidley, but he doesn't get Hidley. He's going to get Griffith. And I think I agree with you. I think Griffith's going to take it out. So when you're talking about the semifinal matchups, I think this works in Mekhi Lewis's favor. I think it's going to be a fun final. This is a great weight class. Starocci, neither one of us, are talking about him winning this thing. So, but I agree with you. I like Mekhi Lewis in this tournament. I just think he's going to get his 2nd title. I think we forgot about him last year because of the injury. I think people forget how dynamic a wrestler this is. And we've talked about why I don't like Marinelli in these tournaments and why I liked RBY last year. I think dynamic, offensive, aggressive, wrestlers like that, when they go on runs, okay? And if Mekhi goes on a run, nobody is stopping him in this tournament. And that's kind of why I'm going with that. But to me, you got Kemmerer. He's hurt. I don't think he's going to do much in this tournament. I agree with you about Labriola. He might make a nice little run. He's going to make the podium. I don't care if he's 9th seed. He's going to get in that top 8. Mako from Missouri, he's a tough out. But I'm going to go with you. I'm going to take Lewis in this one as well. I like I just like the way the tournament rounds out for him. And I think if Mekhi Lewis gets to the finals, he's winning it.
And, Connor O'Neill playing with house money, he says last seed, nothing to lose. We'll see what he does.
Yep. And listen, I still like Connor, talking about the Rutgers wrestlers. Let's see what he does. We didn't know he was going to get in. I think he had a really nice Big Tens to kind of make it, but I'd love to see him get a win or 2 in the back end of this tournament. So good experience for him. Gets him set for next year.
Mm-hmm. All right, 184. I think this is Aaron. I'd say 3-man race. Let's not forget about Trent Hidley, the 3rd seed, Aaron Brooks, the 2nd seed, and then Miles Amin, the 1st seed. Who are you taking at this weight class?
None of them. I'm going with Parker.
You're going Parker. Wow,
yep.
That's a bold prediction there.
Yeah, it's a bold prediction, and I don't feel highly confident. Listen, I can't pick the favorites in every single one. Mm-hmm. I think, undefeated coming in. He hasn't necessarily wrestled some of the talent that, Brooks and Amin. I was really surprised by the Brooks loss. And I'm doing a complete 180 because early this year we talked about the Hodge winners. And I said Brooks could be the dark horse to win get the Hodge. I didn't think this guy was going to lose another match in college. But obviously, what he did obviously kind of threw a little kink in the armor. Hidley's always tough. You never know what he can do. Bernie Trowell's another one, the wrestler from Cal Poly. He's not going to win this thing, but he's a guy who could, he could pull off a big upset and, make a run up in the semis. But to me, I'm just for the hell of it, I'm taking Tyson in this one just because I just got this weird gut feeling that there's going to be something wacky in the NCAAs this year. And I don't know why. I just think it's going to happen at 184.
Maybe this week. Yep. I mean, I'm going with the mean. I think, I think he's not very confident there, but I think he solved the puzzle of Aaron Brooks, got that takedown. I think he has the tools. He's just someone, you look at his body of work, Olympic bronze medalist. This guy, if you look at his record and who he lost to his whole career, I mean, just about all timers. You're talking Mark Hall, you're talking Zahid Valencia, you're talking Aaron Brooks. These are guys that are going down as some of these top multiple national champions. So I just think that he puts it together. He gets the title. He hasn't won one. Maybe I'm pulling for him a little bit. I think I'm gonna go with him. All right, 197. Mr. Fast Twitch, this weight is chaos, wide open. Max Dean in there, number 1 seed. You got Stephen Buchanan, number 2 from Wyoming. Eric Schultz at 3. Greg Bulzak, Rutgers, 14th seed. This is the weight that I just see total chaos happening, honestly. Yeah. I think people get knocked out all the time. I think this weight's going to be wacky, I would say, in the Big Ten. You got Preston Amos, Younger, Bastida. This weight is nuts. I think this weight's going to be a little crazy for everybody. I think it's going to go all over the place. I have trouble picking someone here. Who you taking?
This is the tournament where a guy like Cameron Caffey gets in the finals. I mean, that's what's going to happen this weight class. I have no idea. This is literally, I want to take 5 names, put them in a hat, and grab someone. Buchanan from Wyoming. He's a tough wrestler. Brucky from Michigan. He's had times this year where he's looked really, really on his game. I think I'm going to take Max Dean just because I think he's got the most experience here. I think he's got the most pedigree. I think Kyle, Sanderson gets his guys up. I thought he had that big win, obviously early in the year. So to me, I'm going to go with Max Dean just because. But like I said, this could be the tournament where someone like Cameron Caffey just gets to the finals and goes on a run. The question is, does Greg Bulzak, get the All-American? And I remember we were talking about him earlier in the year, especially when he had the win over Bonacorsi. And we forgot about Bonacorsi too, by the way. I mean, this is a returning finalist who's taken some tough losses this year. So I expect him to do something in this tournament, maybe get back on the podium. But my take on Bulzak is what I said earlier. Let's not get too excited because obviously we need to get through the Big Ten schedule. He needed to be able to get through that grind. Obviously, he's got a very distinctive style. He likes to get those boots in. He likes to ride a guy. He's got, his upper body, on his feet. I wanted him to develop a shot. That's my big thing. You want to win this tournament. You want to make noise in the NCAAs. You have to have a leg attack. So to me, I think Bulzak, I'm excited to see what he can do. I'm going to roll the dice and say he makes the top 8. It's his last year. I'm not discounting what he did earlier this year. I think he's solved a few things. I think people were aware of what he was doing on top. I think they were figuring out a little bit. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that him and Donnie have been working kind of in the room. They're going to figure some things out. I think he's going to surprise us. I think he's going to make a run here. I think he's going to get All-American. And I'm going to go with Max Dean with the title.
Yeah, I'm gonna, it's a tough pick for me. I don't know who the hell to pick here. I mean, I'm gonna go Brucky just because it's like such a wide open weight. Just like you said, this is where a 9 seed, a 12 seed makes the finals. Would be cool if Bulzak pulls some magic off and gets that. But I do think, Bulzak on the backside, guys coming off a loss, going on the backside. Listen, you throw those boots in, I think guys are going to go over. I think has a style that's really good for this grind of a tournament. He's aggressive, he's physical, he wears guys down. So I think this favors him a bit. I think he gets on the podium. And I think he All-Americans. I feel good about that pick. I do think, I think going in that backside of the bracket, hopefully he does a little bit of a run on the front end. I know he gets Eric Schultz second match. Eric Schultz was upset early last year. Who knows if that repeats? But
I like that matchup though, John. I like the matchup with Schultz. For some reason I think he matches up well against him. I think Kathy was a bad matchup for him early in the year. That's a match that got away from him a little bit. Obviously, so to me, I don't want to put too much credence in that one match. In general, he's been solid. I mean, I thought he wrestled well against Dean. Okay. So to me, against the top competition in this weight class, I think he's wrestled solid. It's just, to your point, in the back end, you're 3-4 matches in. Do you want this guy on top of you? I mean, he's strong as a bull. Okay. He's not necessarily. It was my fear. I don't think he had the style to win a national championship. Same thing with the Marinelli. That's not his style. He absolutely has the style late in a tournament to really grind guys out and get in that top 6. That I do believe.
We'll see what happens there. All right, heavyweight, what do you got? I think it's Gable next topic.
Yeah, we can end the show right now. Listen, Gable's going to win it. He's going to win it big. I was kind of upset that Cassiope didn't wrestle in the Big Ten championships. And I'm not going to get into what I would, sitting a bunch of guys. I think some guys were legitimately hurt. I didn't have a problem, with a 41-pounder sitting out. I didn't have a problem with Kemmerer sitting out. I think those guys were banged up a little bit. I would have liked Cassiope to wrestle Gabe Stevenson. This is the last time we're going to see him. I would have liked to see a send-off in the Big Ten championships. I think that was a little weak from my standpoint. I think there's two guys who, obviously Gabe's going to win it and the story. I like Schultz to do something here. I like Kirk Fleet. Those are the guys we're going to be talking about next year. I think Mason Paris, it's funny because 2 years ago, you and I had this conversation. You were making the argument that Mason Paris was going to be catching up to Gabe Stevenson. I said, no chance. Okay. And Mason Paris has taken a few steps back over the last year. So to me, let's see who gets to the finals, but Gabe's, it's the big one. He's going to go out. He's going to win the Hodge. He's going to go on to the WWE sunset, become a big star, make a boatload of money. Let's just enjoy his last run.
No, I hear you, man. I think it's Gable. A lot of other fun guys there. You got the shirt on. He's going to win it. Hey, I hear the music. Thanks, guys. This has been a great show today. We got our picks going. Let us know who you think. Follow us, Spotify. Follow us on anywhere you get your podcast, Apple Podcasts, on everything. Follow us on Facebook. Follow us on Instagram. We got a strong meme game going, so you'll see some memes this weekend. I'm looking forward to it. I'll see you later, Eric. Let's go Rutgers and let's get a national champ and some old man.